Now, residents of Myanmar's flood-hit Bago city salvage food and belongings from their waterlogged homes on Tuesday after record rainfall triggered floods that authorities said have displaced 14,000 people. The rainy season typically brings months of heavy downpour to the southeastern Asian country. Now, but scientists say man-made climate change is making weather patterns more intense. Now, in eastern Bago city, residents waded down streets through waist-deep water or floated along in boats or rubber tires as ripple lapped at shuttered shops and houses. Now, according to state-backed Global New Light of Myanmar, almost 5,600 people were being accommodated in a local government temporary relief center. Now, flooding began in July and affected 9 of Myanmar's states and regions, including Rakhine, Kachin, Mon and Chin. I am joined by Alice Eze, a climate change advocate and COO Climate Action Africa, to speak more on this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Now, in recent months, a lot of countries around the world have been faced with serious climate issues, from flooding to wildfires. And of course, what do you say about this, the course of all of this? And before we now get into how maybe it can be controlled or managed.
All right, thank you. The major cause of recent environmental crisis, ranging from flooding to wildfires, is largely attributed to the accelerating effects of climate change. Rising global temperatures are disrupting weather patterns and leading to more frequent and extreme weather events, such as floods and wildfires. And this is majorly caused by human activities such as deforestation, industrial processes, and the burning of fossil fuels, which release greenhouse gases, leading to a warming planet. So, and this is contributing significantly to the climate crisis and amplifying the impact on ecosystems worldwide. So urgent collective action is needed to address these root causes and transition towards sustainable practices to mitigate the impact of climate change. Thank you.
Experts right now, I mean, some of them are of the opinion that humans have refused to heed warnings on the effect of the activities on the climate. I mean, we know that this conversation has started for quite some time now, which is the impact of what we're experiencing today. Now, what do you make of particularly human activities as regards climate change? Are we making progress in terms of consciously trying to control the things we do that could affect the environment adversely, or are we just being static?
All right. What the experts have been saying, scientists have been saying, is true, as we can see what's happening around the world and how communities are suffering the impact of climate change. And I would say we are doing what we can in terms of educating citizens, because, like I said, a major contributor is human-induced is human activities, which is contributing largely to the effects of climate change. We can only do our best, but what I feel we can do is we need to push governments to implement policies that incentivize sustainable practices to have real impact. So we need to foster a cultural shift towards eco-conscious choices and also enhance accessibility to eco-friendly alternatives to curb these effects. So these are crucial steps, and creating a collective sense of responsibility on the part of citizens will provide practical solutions and will encourage these individuals to heed warnings and actively contribute to a more sustainable environment.
Now, I would appreciate if you can elaborate on the impact of man-made climate change on the intensity of weather patterns around the world, particularly during rainy season. I'd also want to just add a bit to it. I mean, we know that countries around the world have signed a pact to reduce the emission of, gases, chlorofluorocarbons and all of that, to ensure that consciously, in terms of, industrialization, gas level, is reduced to, bearable minimum. How would you say these countries are committed to that particular, will I call it, pact right now? And at the, will I call it, basic level, the level of awareness too?
All right. So I would say we've seen a lot from hunger to we've seen the Africa Climate Summit in part of Africa. We've seen conferences being held, and with the coming COP28, a lot of countries are putting in the effort, making promises, committing to ensure a resilient planet. But I would say in terms of implementation, especially for a continent like Africa that suffers a more impact of the climate change and we contribute lesser to the climate crisis, I would say we still have this gap between actually saying and doing. And talking about the science of man-made climate change, you can see that in the intensity of weather patterns globally, especially notably during the rainy season. So rising temperatures are leading to increased evaporation, which is loading the atmosphere with more moisture. So this elevated humidity contributes more to intense and prolonged rainfall during the rainy season. So beyond that, the warming climate also disrupts traditional weather patterns. So you have where it's leading to unpredictable and extreme events. So you have heavy downpours and storms. So these changes pose significant challenges and are causing more frequent and severe flooding, putting communities at heightened risk. So the main thing is to build resilience of these communities that are being impacted, and marrying what we say and what we do in terms of we have said we're going to do this. We are committing to reducing emissions in X number of years. We should ensure we put in the work. So what are we putting in place to ensure a smooth transition? You can't say the local woman in a village should stop using firewood if you've not provided an alternative that is sustainable for her. So we should ensure that when we are saying we're going to enact some certain laws or policies, there's already measures in place to ensure a smooth transition.
All right, quickly before I let you go. Now, some of the opinion that the idea of climate change and of course planting of trees actually do not in any way affect weather patterns. What is your reaction to people of such opinion? And finally, what do you think the people of Bago city in Myanmar can actually do right now to sort of manage the situation they're going through? Quickly.
All right, so on the so if I get you clearly, you're saying people say planting trees doesn't really amount to, doesn't, as a mitigation plan, doesn't really amount to much. Is that what?
Yes, some of the opinion of that opinion that the whole idea of climate change and of course planting of trees is a hoax and that it has nothing to do with the weather patterns. What's your reaction to that? Briefly.
Okay, so we call those people climate deniers, and so it's because they do not understand the science of it. And that's why when we say, if we're saying anything, we need to back it up with real life situations and something that they can relate to. So planting trees is just a measure. It doesn't mean it's just like doing a little in a collective goal. So we all know what trees do. They help in capturing all the harmful, for example, carbon dioxide, purify the air. And these things don't lead to, just imagine in a village where people, you have exhaust fumes from generators, from cars, from, in quotes, Okada, that's your local bikes, and you have people planting trees. To an extent, it's going to help to purify. And for areas that are coastal areas, planting trees like levees, for example, would prevent water runoff. So these are things that people can do individually in their communities, while also looking at the bigger picture on how we can effectively capture both the carbon and prevent runoff of water from coastal areas. Then on the other aspect, you talked about the Bago city that is being flooded. So when I saw it in the news, I was saddened by the news, and about, I think, 14,000 people were displaced or are currently displaced. So my heart goes out to those affected, and it just underscores the urgent need to address climate challenges posed by climate change. So scientists have been talking about the problem, and we need to know that we need to go beyond being reactive to being proactive.
Proactive.
Communities. So the government doesn't
right.
need to wait. So you know that there's climate change. What are the measures being put in place? Are you strengthening your infrastructure? Are
All
there
right.
warning
I'm sorry, Alice,
systems?
but I might just need to, of course, interrupt you here because we are pressed with time. But I once again
All
thank you
right.
so much for your contribution.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.